The second semifinals of the 2021 World Championship will see the LPL's EDG go up against the LCK's GenG, and this is a much anticipated LPL versus LCK matchup, but we have to take a look at what the tactics both of these two teams are employing, and we try to evaluate based on that to see who comes out ahead. Now, if we were to take a look at the champions that both of these teams have played throughout the tournament so far, EDG have had a very distinct style, with a majority of the games being played on enchanters and the bot lane, rather surprising for an LPL team. They seem to have a rather good grasp of the meta when it comes to the enchanter side of things, or the melee versus enchanter side of things. With the likes of Jason Graves being in the top side of the map, this is a team that's rather proficient at using timing attack compositions, most particularly with Flandre on the likes of Jace, and with him on the Lucian, which he showed during the regular split of the LPL itself. However, there's a slight red flag here for EDG, as the last three times they played an Enchanter mirror in the bottom side of the map, they lost those three games via the bot gap. Once against T1, a second time against 100 Thieves in the group stage, and then a third time during the quarterfinals against RNG. Most of the quarterfinals wins did come from a Drake stacking composition, and it seems the EDG wants to place a priority on playing around the neutral objectives at this World Championship. GenG would be more than happy to oblige them, as this is a bot-focused team, and they are a rather neutral objective-centric team as well. And while GenG have shown some evolution over time, as they have shown an ability to attack the map on two lanes when they're hit, their collapse on the side lane setup can be clumsy at times, and I would have to say that against the LPL teams who are very proficient at either executing or handling the style, GenG would not necessarily be able to make headway when utilizing their unperfected two lane setup. So with neutral objectives being a big part of things and GenG having a bot focus, there might be an angle for GenG to find a way into the series. But my analysis of both teams' tactics say otherwise. The Drake setup for both of these teams, which I think will be a very vital part of this series, given how both teams place such a large emphasis on the neutral objective control, is going to be extremely key to the outcome of these best of five. Now, this is once again going back to the LPL versus LCK setup for neutral objectives that I covered before MSI. So EDG is follows the blueprint that the LPL teams have been doing for quite a fair bit of time now, where what they would do from 1 minute 30 to 1 minute before the dragon spawns, they will overload the top side of the map to force the top lane response from their opponents. Upon seeing that, they would then transition this into the mid lane push into the Drake itself, allowing them first move and first control of the bottom side river that gives them solid control over the Drake setup. Whereas GenG, on the other hand, they do not place the same emphasis on the cross-map position of the Drake, and we would see them simply overload mid after settling the side lane wave at 1 minute before the spawn of the neutral objective to a neutral position. Now, if both teams were to end up playing a two-lane scenario, once again, I think that this is where GenG doesn't necessarily handle these scenarios very well. Even against Cloud9, where they found themselves behind the map against a two-lane pick composition, they were still defending the map 1-3-1 while behind, and this is a old weakness of theirs that they have had throughout the previous years. I criticized this for them during the 2020 World Championship, and they don't really seem to have changed this. Uh, if there's a little bit more decisiveness on C9's part in going for the dive on the top side of the map, this series might have been a little different, or at least the outcome of this game itself. So, with all that said and done, this should be an easy 3-0 for EDG, right? That might say so here if we were to take a look at things across the board, with the Drake setups and the neutral objective setups being in EDG's favor, and the two-lane setups being in EDG's favor as well. It might seem that like GenG doesn't have a ghost of a chance in the semifinals matchup. However, if we were to go back what we've identified earlier, EDG's reliance on enchanters and GenG's willingness to play into the bot lane might create scenarios where the enchanter matchup kind of neutralizes some of these and creates corners in the metagame where GenG might be able to take the fight against EDG, bring things out, and then beat them in a 30-minute team fight over one of these neutral objectives. And with that, my prediction will still be in EDG's favor, but it's not as clear cut as a lot of people would seem to think it is. And that wraps things up. And that wraps things up for my semifinals 2 preview of EDG versus GenG. If you enjoyed this type of content, please do consider liking this video and subscribing to my YouTube channel. Worlds has been rather exciting so far. And this is Jensen. So I hope you have had a nice day, and let's get hyped for the semifinals and the finals next week.